A new season is here, which means an updated settings video for you guys. I know a lot of people have been asking for it, so we're going to be going over all the best Windows settings, graphics settings, audio settings, literally everything. But before we do that, I just want to give a quick shout out to my Twitter. It's Webzy_ over there. Link will also be in the description. We're almost at 1,000 followers, so even if just a small percentage of you guys went over and dropped a follow, we could definitely hit that, and I'd really appreciate it. As well as my Twitch. My Twitch is just Webzy, and I stream basically every single day that I don't upload to YouTube. So if you don't see a video from me, I'm probably live over there, and I'll be live as soon as this video goes up. So if you have any questions about this video, feel free to say what's up in chat, ask away, and I'll do my best to help. Also, I know a lot of people have been asking for an updated NVIDIA filters video since the game looks a lot different now. So I'm going to be going through this weekend and testing a lot of stuff. So I should have that video up for you guys by next week. So if you are new here and you're interested in that, make sure you click that subscribe button, and let's just get into the settings. Alright, so the Windows settings are basically the same as last time with a few minor changes, but this right here is for the PC noobs out there. If you haven't yet, download GeForce Experience if you do have an NVIDIA graphics card. This is a program that's going to allow you to update your drivers and use NVIDIA filters if you do choose to do so. And once you download that and open up the program, this is what you're going to see. So you're going to just click drivers right here, and you're going to be able to download your drivers and install them right here. Make sure you keep up to date on that because having really old drivers can definitely affect performance. But now that your drivers are updated, we're going to close out of that, and we're going to go down to the search bar here, and we're going to search for game mode, and you're going to see game mode settings right here. So click that, and it's going to open up this menu, and where it says game mode, just check this to on. And then on the right side, you're going to see this here where it says graphics settings. So click that. And not everyone's going to have this option, but if you do have this option, turn it on where it says hardware accelerated GPU scheduling, and you're going to have to restart your PC after you enable this if you did have this option. Once you're done with that, we're going to go back to the search bar, and we're going to search for power, and you're going to see power and sleep settings right here. So click that. It's going to open this up, and on the right side, you're going to see additional power settings. So click that, and then you're going to see high performance right here. It might be under a little drop down menu. So click high performance, and that's all we have to do here. Back to the search bar, we're going to be searching background apps, and just click this. That'll open this up here, and you're going to check this off where it says let apps run in the background, because if you don't do this, all these apps are just going to be running in the background while you're playing the game, and that definitely can impact performance if you're on a lower end PC. So make sure you check this off. Now this setting is for people who play on mouse and keyboard. So if you do, just go to the search bar and type mouse, and you're going to see mouse settings here. So just click that, and once you have this menu up, just go to additional mouse options. Click that, and it's bringing this menu up. Now from here, you're going to want to go to pointer options, and you're going to want to uncheck where it says enhance pointer precision. Basically, this is mouse acceleration when this is enabled, which you really don't want because it's going to be really hard to build muscle memory with your sensitivity. For those who don't know what mouse acceleration is, it's basically when you're scrolling over and you start slowing down over a menu or something, your mouse starts kind of slowing down for you, which makes it easier to click stuff in Windows. But when you're in a game and that's happening, it's going to make it really hard to build muscle memory, which is going to make it harder to practice your aim and improve your aim. And then we're going to get into the NVIDIA control panel. So if you do have an AMD graphics card, you're just going to want to skip ahead in the video. But if you do have an NVIDIA graphics card, all you got to do is right click your desktop, click NVIDIA control panel, and it's going to open this up here. And the first thing I want you to do is go to change resolution, and then you're going to see right here where it says refresh rate. You're going to want to click that drop down box and click the highest number available, because I know there's a lot of people out there who actually play on 60 hertz, but they actually have a 144 hertz monitor, and you really don't want to be doing that because your game's going to be a lot less smooth if you're not playing on the highest refresh rate that you can. After that, we're going to go over to the manage 3D settings, and the first setting here I want to note is image sharpening. Now if you put these settings on right here where you have sharpen all the way up and ignore film grain all the way up, it's going to make the game look a little more sharper and clear and like improve your visibility a bit. But keep in mind, if you're playing other games, this setting might make your game look kind of trash. So if you're playing a game that's not Warzone, you might want to check this off. But when you're playing Warzone, this can definitely be beneficial. And then after that, I'm just going to scroll through the rest of the settings here. I don't want to go through all of them individually because that's just going to take way too much time and this video will be too long. So just copy all these settings here, and then we're going to get into the in-game settings. All right, so now that we're in the game, we're going to do the graphics settings first. And a lot of these are the same as before, but there is there's a couple changes. So we're going to be going over a lot of this kind of quick, and then we're going to go more in depth about the changes. Starting with display mode, put on full screen. You should know by now that playing at full screen lowers your input lag. And then looking down here at screen refresh rate, make sure this is at the highest number available to you. And then make sure render resolution is at 100. VSync or sync every frame should be disabled. This is going to increase input lag by a lot if you have this enabled. Although if you are experiencing a lot of screen tearing, enabling this could fix that, but keep in mind it's going to give you some extra input delay. Then for custom frame rate limit, I always put this on custom, then click advanced, and I make sure the gameplay custom frame rate limit is all the way up. And then I have the menu custom frame rate limit at 60. So when I'm in the menus, I'm not just using all my resources in my PC. Then scrolling down here to NVIDIA highlights, I disable this because if you have this enabled, it's just going to automatically record stuff for you. If you do want to still record stuff with your NVIDIA overlay, you're still able to do so. So I would definitely disable this. Otherwise, it just records a bunch of random double kills and stuff like that. And then for NVIDIA reflex low latency, I have this enabled plus boost. Display gamma is really going to depend what kind of screen you're playing on. So if you're playing on a monitor, you should have this on 2.2. If you're playing on a TV, try out 2.4 and see if that looks better for you. And then for streaming quality, I have this on normal. Texture resolution, I have on normal. Texture filter anisotropic, I have on normal. Particle quality on high. Bullet impacts and sprays enabled. Tessellation disabled. Shadow map resolution low. This is one of the biggest culprits of lowering your frame rate, so definitely have this on low. Cache spot sun shadows and cache sun shadows, enable both of these. Sometimes when you open your game, these are going to be disabled, so when you open your game, you're going to have to go through your graphics and double check, which is really annoying, but that's just how it is. Then for particle lighting, I have this on low. Ray tracing, if you do have this option, disable it. Ambient occlusion, disabled. Screen space reflection, disabled. And down here is where we have some changes I want to talk about. Now, I know some of you guys in the comments may be saying, oh, he just disabled everything or whatever, but yeah, the settings that we're disabling or lowering are not really changing how the game looks at all, besides maybe the shadow map resolution. But as we talked about in the last video, we got NVIDIA DLSS, which was just added with season 3. Now, if you don't know what this does, it basically is taking a lower resolution image and upscaling it to the resolution you're playing on. So I'm playing on 1440p, so it's basically taking a 1080p image and upscaling it to 1440p, which results in a lot higher frame rate. So for this setting, I would recommend putting this on quality if you do play on 1440p. And after all my testing, I've noticed that disabling this if you're playing on 1080p is for the best, because it's not going to improve your frame rate at all if you're playing on quality. And any other option than quality on 1080p, it just makes the game look like garbage, and it's not a huge boost to your performance. Now, I know some people have been running into some issues having DLSS enabled. So if you're having those issues or you're playing on 1080p, I would really now recommend having anti-aliasing at this Filmic SMAA T2X. I used to recommend having it at off or the 1X, but if you look here, when you have it at off, you can see like shimmering around the trees, which makes it really hard to spot people in the distance. But if you have it at the Filmic SMAA T2X, that gets rid of that shimmering effect, and it makes it a lot easier to spot people at distances, especially in areas where there's a lot of trees. So I highly recommend putting it at this setting now, although putting it up to this setting is definitely going to lower your frame rate a little bit. In my experience, my frame rate's gone down by about 10 on average, which sounds like a lot, but I think it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make for better visibility. But if you're really just struggling for frames, you could turn this setting off. Now, keep in mind, if you are using DLSS, your anti-aliasing setting's not going to matter, because DLSS has like its own built-in anti-aliasing setting. So if you're using DLSS, the anti-aliasing just won't even matter. And then for depth of field, we're going to disable this. World motion blur, weapon motion blur, disable both of these. Film grain, we want to turn this all the way down, and then we don't even mess with dynamic resolution, keep that disabled, which you won't even be able to mess with anyway if you are using DLSS. And then onto my audio settings, I do play on boost low. I found this to be the best setting for hearing footsteps, and I do have my master volume cranked way down because this game is just obnoxiously loud. And then I do have my music volume turned all the way down because you don't want to be hearing random music in the background when you're listening for like footsteps and all that. It just adds unnecessary sounds to the game. I keep my dialogue volume all the way up because I'm kind of deaf, so I want to make sure that I'm hearing when the operator's calling out that an enemy called in a UAV or an airstrike or something. And then I've heard with effects volume that it'll turn down the volume of gunshots and airstrikes and all that stuff, but it won't turn down the volume of hearing footsteps. I don't know exactly how true that is because I haven't really tested it. So I just turned this down slightly because the airstrike noises and gunshots in this game are just insanely loud. Mono audio, disable this, because mono audio basically makes it so the audio is always playing through both sides of your headphones, but on stereo it can play through one or the other. So if someone's shooting you from the right and you have mono audio enabled, then you're going to be hearing it through both headphones, and it's going to be really hard to pinpoint where those gunshots are coming from. And then the rest of the stuff in audio is really going to depend on your setup. I turned voice chat volume pretty high because I want to be able to get the death comms nice and loud and clear through the recording, so we can make some funny videos with that. But all these settings right here are personal preference, and it's going to depend on your setup. And then let's go into my keyboard and mouse settings. For my sensitivity, I play on 6 sensitivity and I play at 400 DPI. If we click advanced here, this is all default besides the air vehicle sensitivity multiplier. For some reason, when you play on a slow sense on mouse and keyboard, the helicopters turn insanely slow when you're driving them, so I crank this all the way up. Then after that, we got my aim down sight mouse sensitivity, which I keep on relative, and I haven't changed any of my ADS sensitivities, but I did change the transition timing. I put this on instant, otherwise everything else here is default. Then scrolling down, mouse acceleration, filtering, smoothing, you want to turn all this down or all the way off, because otherwise it's going to give you a floating feeling and it's not going to be a raw input to your mouse, so it's going to be really hard to build muscle memory if you have any of these up at all or enabled. Then we're going to go over my keybinds. Now for my keybinds, I'm not going to go over every single little keybind. I just find that completely unnecessary, because I don't need to be talking about every single little keybind, because all these settings are really going to be what you're most comfortable with, and that's about it. I wouldn't recommend just copying my keybinds because it's what I use. I would just go through and test all of these for yourself, see what works best for you, and then just get used to it. And then last thing, we have the general tab. I probably should have done this after the graphics settings, but I play on 120 FOV, and if you click advanced, I do play on affected. And for brightness, a lot of people always ask me about this for some reason, but I have it on 53. But what you should be doing with your brightness is going over to the right and looking at the little MW logo and turning this up until you can just barely see it, because everyone's monitor is different, so you don't want to just copy the brightness setting that I have. But other than that, pretty much everything in this general tab is on default besides my mini map shape, which I have on square. And then for those who don't know, if you go down here to where it says telemetry, this is how you turn on your FPS counter and all that. So I have my FPS counter turned on, my server latency, packet loss, and my GPU temperature. But I believe those are about all the settings, and I really hope this helped some of you guys out there. If it did, please drop a like, and if you are new, please consider subscribing. We're almost at 20k, which is just crazy to me, but I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Here's the web. Peace.